Fatebinder, no one in recent history has reached the pinnacle of a spire, and yet you step to the top as if they were intended for your occupation. What do you have to say for yourself? As if we need to answer to him. They offer certain strategic advantages. So you only regard them as tactical bastions? Perhaps that is best. Whatever power raised the spires and holds them aloft, better that you not let it preoccupy your efforts. What is it you require? Well, we do have an investigation to conduct. We've helped the disfavored now. Perhaps now would be the time to start getting to know a little bit more about Archon Ashe himself. Might help us reach decisions down the line. If you get my gist. Yeah. If it's not so blunt, Calvina saying, tell me a bit more about yourself. I'm a family man. I've always believed that culture is grown from a family legacy and respect for the past. I've sired 4 children in my long life. Ashelrin, Priam, Amelia, and Brennix. I'm a general to my soldiers, but a father as well. They have my confidence, my love, and my trust. There is nothing more to give. My days on Tyranny span many more than any human lifetime, and on this journey I have learned much. It must be said that I have also grown stubborn. I believe that matters must be handled a particular way, and see no reason to waver in those beliefs, as they are the product of my experience. Okay. Well, whilst we're here, going through each of his children. Ashelrin. My first and proudest accomplishment. What strength she had. During the conquest of the Northern Empire, she was slain by Blood Echo, the madman who once laid claim to the title of Archon of War. I would later cut his head from his shoulders with Ashelrin's broken sword. He continued to scream for minutes after the deed was done. I miss her to this day. Would that she had lived long enough to bring a family of her own into this world. Imagine me, a grandfather. Priam? My son, born to the life I enjoyed before I was an Archon. He fell to a wasting illness caused by pox, the Archon of Ruin. Disease was but one of many weapons wielded during the conquest of the North. Were he still alive, he would have sat at my right hand, for he was wise in counsel and strategy beyond his years, perhaps even beyond mine. Amelia? Are they all dead? This is not good, is it? She has her father's stubborn persistence. She's an excellent fighter, though more brazen and eager to test herself on the field of battle. I have objected to this disposition in the past, but it seems as integral to her being as the very breath she draws. Amelia, she has been missing from the Legion since the fighting escalated in Stalwart. After her advanced detachment made their way into the depths of enemy territory, we lost contact. I fear for her, Fatebinder. I fear for her daily, and not knowing has turned this war into a nightmare. And we know a little bit so far about Brennix. We know he's dead. My youngest and most beloved. He was joyful and loving, a soldier like his father, and fiercely devoted to his countrymen. He told the most horrid jokes. But he was taken captive at Vendrian's Well, and later died. I could feel his life at the moment it was extinguished. The circumstances were unusual. None of the quick violence brought about by blade or hammer. He died by some force that I cannot understand. I will not speak of this further. And this connection with your soldiers? This Aegis? Tell me about that. Every member of the disfavored is as precious to me as family. Their bloodlines are known and respected, their performance in combat beyond every expectation, and I would go any length in their service. They call me General or Archon, yet I consider myself a servant and guardian of these excellent women and men. But I suspect that isn't what you intended to hear. There is a deeper connection. Still, but to appreciate it you must understand our history, my rebellion and my rise to power. Okay. Fine. We are more than a mere army. I ensure that the disfavored legion represent everything we hold dear in the North. Rigid discipline, training to perfection, respect for law, and the importance of family. As conquerors, it is our duty to teach the savage lands not just how to live up to the values the Empire sets, but how to live for them. Yes. Delving more into their history. As Kairos conquered the North under a single banner, there were those of us who resisted the call to unification. I was a young warlord at the time, petulant and inflated by pride. I rallied the sons and daughters of the North to stand against Kairos. Our offensive was valiant. We planted our shield wall between the armies of Kairos and our homeland, declaring that no tyrants would dare cross us. We held our ground for a time, drawing the attention of others who would add their strength to ours. Every victory was discussed and celebrated by other warring factions that refused to submit. As you have witnessed, none can stand against Kairos. Eventually, my legions shattered against the relentless onslaught of Archons and soldiers. They brought me in chains before Tunan. He told me that enemies of Kairos would all be put to the sword unless I took that one opportunity to surrender and join the fold. Out of loyalty and love for my countrymen, I swallowed my pride and bent the knee, offering my sword and my life to the Empire. My army was granted the rights of Kairos' peace, and we lived on as servants of the Overlord. Since we have transgressed and rebelled against the offering of Kairos' protection, my elite legion was stripped of their decorated name, the dubbed disfavored, a mocking reminder of our past crimes. Even as we stand above all others in the ways of war, we struggle to earn back Kairos' favour. Every soldier in my legion is descended from those who stood with me during the rebellion. I keep them close to me because they were the finest northern stock, and their continued lineage is a reminder of Kairos' mercy. That goes for you as well, child of the North. By your unwavering loyalty and respect for our heritage, you are beloved in my eyes. He nods at Barak. Disgusting. I hope you don't expect me to listen to this sentimental drivel much longer. You sound jealous, Verse. Maybe you don't know how it feels to be favoured by an Archon. Nor would I want to. If the Voices of Narat takes an interest in you, that's one step closer to having your skin flayed and sewn into his tent. Okay, tell me of the units. Most of the Legion is made up of stone shields. They are the bricks in our shield wall. The Iron Walkers are the trained and efficient killers who branch out from behind the phalanx to fight among the enemy ranks. Crescent Runners are the fleet-footed light infantry who bait the enemy into premature attack. The Oathbound are specialized scouts and advanced infantry. Then there are the Iron Guard, tempered in the forge of war, armoured to survive any blow, and commanders of surpassing skill. The only other units are my Earthshakers, the former mages of Cairn, who command avalanches and harness nature's fury to our ends. Okay. And asking regarding his view on the Southerners. The South has squatted in willful ignorance of Kairos' superiority for so long that they do not deserve my respect. As the rest of the Empire coalesced into a united, shared culture, the Tearsmen prided themselves as distinct. We looked on them from afar with nothing but scorn. All that I see in the Tears confirms my bias. There is lawlessness, neglect, corruption, infighting, everything the vaunted North has disposed of through superior breeding and culture. Indeed, it is our duty to fashion it appropriately, and so we shall. You speak truth. We are here for the glory of Kairos, but also because we bear the burden of responsibility on our shoulders. If we did not teach the Tears a better way, then they would eventually destroy themselves from within. Of course, it's possible that these Tearsmen may come to enjoy all the best of Kairos' offerings, but it will take generations of trial and the long-term eradication of culture as they know it. A worthy pursuit by any standard. Okay. Do the disfavored have their own law? Do they have their own law? They shouldn't really, should they? I suppose, but... I hold the Legion to a particular set of standards. We don't have laws as you would know them under Tunan's teachings, but every soldier in the Legion is aware of my expectations. The first, honour the Legion in thought and deed. I cannot allow atrocity or heinous crime to drag my respectable Northmen into shame. I expect my soldiers to follow Kairos' mandates and conduct themselves respectably. The second, honour all oaths with your life. This represents the vows made to me as Archon and Kairos as Overlord. There can be no formal marriage for the disfavoured ranks. This to prevent any obligations higher than the military. My soldiers can pair up and sire offspring as they wish. The North needs daughters and sons, and I would not force my countrymen to choose between family and loyalty. And last, honour your shield and weapon. The maintenance and care of arms and armour are critical to a soldier's success on the field. Of course, there are the rare exceptions. How do you fare under that shell of iron, son of Barikonan? Well enough, General. I know I'm not in top form, but I'm able to execute my duties with distinction. As you say. As you say. Oh, so we can actually go into his rebellion a bit further. And we shall, whilst we're here. You are right to be curious about our history, but it concerns me that you would speak of rebellion. The battles of the past are centuries cold and hard as iron. Yes, well, the uprisings of the past may inform our present efforts. They might at that. None of the squalling Tearsmen hold a candle to my efforts, but I would rather you march forth understanding your enemy than not. So you want to hear how I decimated the armies of Kairos, built my legion around northern values and achieved a measure of power? It's true that I accomplished much as a northern warlord, but my life began in earnest under the Overlord's tutelage. Okay. Asking who he defeated during the rebellion. I defeated Blood Echo, the Archon of War at the time, by leading him into a trap. He must have been so consumed by the fury of the hunt that he overlooked a bit of hasty misdirection. Even the execution of that foe was nothing compared to the victory I would win later. Capable of a bit of misdirection? Worth noting down. I also defeated the Voices of Nerat. Oh. Strange to imagine that happening so many years ago, and here we are again. My legion nearly destroyed the Scarlet Chorus. Humiliated them, in fact. I suspect the Archon of Secrets is still licking his wounded pride. I wonder if he would remember the conflict differently, or at all for that matter. The Voices has a long memory, but a short attention span. His soldiers are as disposable and unloved as anything can be. The Voices holds his pride and satisfaction in higher regard. He's crafty enough that nothing can wound him deeply, though I seem to have earned the distinction. Yes. What was it like to assume the Archon of War's mantle? Well, at first, I was unaware that I had assumed any power beyond my normal authority. It might seem obvious now, but war tends to confuse such things. I had no desire whatsoever to claim or accept such a responsibility under Kairos. It took years for me to fully come to terms with my own surrender and subjugation. But if I was meant for any title in the honoured hierarchy of Archons, war seemed an appropriate one for me. In truth, I think of myself more as a general and a father. Okay. Tell me about fighting the Archons. We won many battles against the Archons, though we did the most damage against the Voices of Nerat. He was by no means the only Archon to assault our sheared wall. When the Archon of Entropy tarnished our weapons, we fought with wood. When the Archon of Sorrow sapped our fervour, we rallied around songs of the North. I dismantled their offensives, even though I lacked an Archon's education or experience. No doubt this is one of the reasons that Kairos singled me out to join the ranks. Alright, and how exactly did you rise to power? That tale is bound to the rebellion itself. I always inspired loyalty and devotion in my soldiers, but as the years wore on, I grew to love them in turn. Every stone shield is as dear to me as a blood relation, and I would go to any lengths to see them succeed. As we know all too well, General. When we stood tall against Kairos, the women and men of my legion trained harder, marched farther, and endured more than even I had taught them. We were unstoppable. The soldiers credited me this new advantage. I had given them my total commitment, and they felt protected and strengthened by my presence. At first I thought it merely their nature to look to their leader for courage, but nay, they were the first to discover the truth. Yes, I'm assuming you mean the Aegis. You clearly paid attention during the conquest. My Aegis, as it came to be called, covers my loyal soldiers in a protective shroud. They also have 10 times the endurance and coordination of a standard army, and shrug off lethal blows without incident. At first, I attributed the performance of my legion to their training and breeding, but soon it became clear that something greater was afoot. I suspect this redoubled Kairos' interest in me. The power of an Archon is something to be nurtured or stamped out in accordance with Tunan's judgment. Once the forces of Kairos viewed my influence over the troops as a demonstrable threat, they resolved to put an end to my defiance once and for all. They sent every army they could spare after us, all but sacrificing the Scarlet Chorus in the process. Eventually, as all detractors do, even I fell. What happened next? They dragged me to Tunan's court in chains. I killed a dozen guards on the journey. If I was to be shackled for the Overlord's delight, I would pay back the indignity in blood. When I knelt before the adjudicator and felt the force of his judging stare, my temper cooled, turning from anger to fear. Tunan offered me the terms of my own sentence. If I walked the path of insubordination, then the lives of my soldiers were forfeit. If I bent the knee to Kairos, an opportunity that would not present itself twice, then I could continue to serve my legion as their Archon. It was a difficult choice, but not so trying that it paralysed me. My soldiers had not earned such glory to see it all snuffed out before their time. After I made the choice, Tunan invited me to a council of Archons where my loyalties were affirmed, and my place among their number sealed in a compact to Kairos. No sooner had I become an Archon to my soldiers than I became the Overlord's Archon of War. Pretty decent promotion, and earned through a display of strength. Odd that he held the chorus in such contempt. You already know the rest. My vaunted legion became disfavoured, The Archons even forced me to cast off my northern surname. Graven was a joke at my expense, since I buried my pride in the past. I am a vassal of Kairos now, but the protection of my soldiers is secure. I have guided their family lines across generations, and the disfavoured show no signs of slowing. Well, that is a nice history lesson. Indeed it was. But now... Ooh. Another... Well, again, investigations here. We just want to make sure that everything is as it needs to be. Asking if he ever had any doubts, and he wished that he'd remained defiant to Kairos. What? What is that, Fatebinder? I hope I didn't just hear you utter those words. Ooh. Ooh. You're walking a fine line asking the Archon these sorts of questions, Fatebinder. I would take care with how you address the General in the future. And you should take care how you address me. Yes. I merely ask the question as an agent of Tunen, a Fatebinder. I deserve an answer. A bit strong wording, but none the same. We are investigating here, and so we are being given free rein by Tunen to go about our investigations as we deem necessary. Ooh, but we got a bit of lot out of it. Don't say you weren't warned. You deserve nothing. You think just because the adjudicator gives you a measure of authority that I'm obliged to disclose my thoughts to the likes of a legal clerk? I am not as giving as Tunen. My trust is earned, and your impertinence in thinking you're warranted anything sours my estimate I had of your worth. I have never second-guessed my decision. Had I remained defiant, my beloved Northerners would have faced execution, and by my own hand I would have followed them to the grave. The North fell to Kairos. I mourn for the old ways, even as I served the Conqueror's will, but over time we rose to become greater than a short-sighted warlord could ever dream. The next time you question my loyalty, remember what I have done in the name of army and country. I am the Archon of War. If you seek an expert in backstabbing, perhaps you would be better served in the Voices of Nerat's company. I hope we understand each other. Yes, we are indeed in a civil war, and loyalties are compromised on both sides. I simply am seeking information. Of course, you're right. I shouldn't have responded so harshly. The forces of Kairos already have blades to each other's throats, and you are no doubt more accustomed to rooting out treachery. Accept an old man's grudging admission that things are not as they were, and even he has trouble keeping up. I want this war to end, if only so we can return to the lives of simple obedience. Our enemies don't make it easy for us, do they? Ah, you see? That's more like it. Oh, sort of an apology there, wasn't it? Indeed. We shall leave no stone unturned in our investigation. And it is important that everybody knows that. Right. Speaking of this war, time to discuss our next move. Glory to the Overlord! He shouts, and the breastplates of the surrounding disfavoured rattle with their salutes. With the Voices of Nerat's betrayal of our cause, our mission to control this forsaken peninsula has become all the more dire. We had thought the Vendrian Guard were the final death rattle of this region's defiance. We were wrong. The Tears have risen up against Kairos, emboldened by their countrymen. And while the disfavoured labour to maintain order, that serpent, the Voices of Nerat, grows his army of lunatics and sellswords, preparing to lash out when we least expect it. I can only imagine that the Voices is driving his gangs mad with plots to storm this fortress. There can be no peace while the Voices of Nerat lives, and no order while the Scarlet Chorus rampage across these lands. The elimination of chaos must be our first priority. Then we will have our time to govern the tiers as Kairos intended. Can I depend upon your support against this scourge? Yes, tell me more of this uprising. I try not to bother myself with the details. These objectors will be dealt with and forgotten soon enough. I know of the Unbroken, a group of former stalwart miscreants that rose in the Blade Grave, arming themselves with a misguided sense of national pride. Beyond them, the dissident elements of this fallen realm interest me little. Right, well, what would you have me do? Our position of authority in the Blade Grave is far from secure. We need to establish ourselves in the region in order to cultivate our strength for the battle to come. As soon as I am confident in our chances, we will depart this realm and wipe the chorus threat from the face of Tyranny. The Unbroken, former daughters and sons of Stalwart, vex our efforts to secure this region. The Edict of Storms offers them cover. They slip past our patrols in the light of day, hiding their movements behind clouds of dust and debris. Kairos cast this blight on the country to set an example, not to plague those of us loyal to the north. You must travel to Sentinel Stand and seek out Stradus Herodin. He is the last of the old stalwart bloodline who call themselves regents. Put him to the sword and end this edict once and for all. Yes. And who exactly is this Herodin? The last of an elder bloodline that ruled Stalwart and maintained its dignity. He is also a filthy coward. During the last battle of Stalwart, he crouched behind the walls of Sentinel Stand, Keep, and refused to meet our forces in the field of battle. And why is he not dead yet? Because he persists in crouching behind the walls of Sentinel Stand. With the Edict of Storms raging around the Citadel, no one has been able to enter or exit since the last year of the conquest. No bird or missive has left the wind wall either. The edict is all the proof we have that Herodin still lives. Okay. So, we know a little bit about the Edict of Storms, and as a Fatebinder, we should know our history, so we won't ask the question. But and also, I'm assuming that the edict relies on him being dead before it's ended, so it's quite simple, really. Consider him dead. Find the last regent, kill him, end this Edict of Storms, and staunch this seeping wound of rebellion once and for all. The downfall of the Unbroken and the old regent will send a message throughout the tiers. Our rule is absolute, and dissidence will not be tolerated. We shall travel indeed to Sentinel Stand, and will judge by my findings. I mean, we are probably likely going to kill him, but one should not be hasty. If your perspective is as lawful and orderly as it ought to be, the right path should seem clear. The Unbroken must be destroyed, and the edict must end. Should you arrive at any other conclusion, I suggest that you stifle your opinion and follow orders like any good soldier. Follow orders? We're not here to follow orders. Certainly not from you. There is one final matter to discuss. My daughter went missing in the second year of the conquest. I have reason to believe she is trapped in the fortress of Sentinel Stand. If you can find Amelia, bring her home to me. Okay. I'll bring her back if I have time. Right, well, we've heard a little bit about her. Given his aegis and the feelings that he had about Brennix, we get an inkling as to why he thinks that she's still alive. I have reason to believe. Yeah, but how do... Yeah, okay, a bit more about this. How does he know where exactly she is? It is the one location in all of Stalwart we cannot reach. If her detachment of soldiers was taken captive, she would have been placed beyond my power. No doubt for the southern wretches to use for negotiation. So if she's been placed beyond his power, what makes him think she's still alive? Okay. So it is to do with his Aegis. Okay. Right, well, if we do indeed find her, Calvina is saying, we will ensure she is returned safely. That is all I ask. Amelia is but one soldier, yet if I had the forces to dispatch, I would make her retrieval my highest priority. She is a commander of the highest renown and a paragon of northern values. Fatebinder, I offer you my support on this mission. The Blade Grave is a place of memory. I left many cohorts buried among the ruins, and no small part of myself as well. Excuse me? The matter is a sensitive one, but I fear to speak it in the company of the great general, though he doubtless knows it already. Speak on, son of Barry Conan. Nothing I've seen you accomplish in the field has diminished you in my eyes, and I know my soldiers as well as I know myself. I lost countrymen by the hundreds in the last day of the Stalwart campaign, and for my troubles, I became fused in this armour. The Blade Grave is the last place I ever felt human. That is all I will say about it now. The last battle of Stalwart was a terrible time, perhaps most of all for you who survived. I mourn those we lost, and recite their names often during the morning drills. We cannot restore their broken bodies to the north, but we can remember them as they were. Yes, is that all? Your manner has changed. Barrack stands straighter, and for a moment you can't tell if he's going to lash out or crumple into himself. You are prepared for anything. After a long pause, his shoulders sagged the slightest bit. My cohort marched on Sentinel Stand to complete a mission. We failed. The walls of the keep defied us, and the last region of Stalwart refused to meet us in battle. The coming of Kairos' edict cut us off from our objective. Because of this, the Blade Grave is also a place of regret. Yes, well, we have no desires to kick him to the curb, so, of course, you can accompany me. I appreciate that, Fatebinder. Archon Ashe is attentive and understanding to each of his troops, and it pleases me to see his example in you. And in you, Armoured One. Never forget that I found you at the mere germination of your potential, and you have accomplished much in the ensuing years. Thank you, General. Your map is already marked with the position of Sentinel Stand. It would take me 100 lifetimes to forget those old walls, or the day the edict shattered our advance. I don't think we have any further questions, but we just check. No, we don't indeed. So with that, we are out of here. Whew.
Aye.
So, lots of information there. Lots of information. Any of it useful for our little trial of Archons? Not really, but we got a lot more insight into the Archon of War there, which is going to prove to be useful, I think. And apparently, there is a spire within the Blade Grave, the Ocean Spire. Okay. So there's 3 things for us to do here. We can go to kill Stradus Herodin as number 1. Cedar Village to confront Mouth-Breather Neficio. And we have a spire to find. Where shall we go first? Well, this one seems to be maybe time bound, so we'll probably do this one first. But yeah, lots to do, and get to it we shall. We'll also level up our character and play around with 1 or 2 new spells as well, I think, before we start our next session. So yes, join me then when we shall
On it.
press ever forwards. Until then, see you soon.